Right, and hence the insurrection. Okay, so what exactly does the bill that goes to referendum actually say? What are the citizens voting on?
Well, there was actually a bill passed this summer with there were some corrections made to it because it was awful the way it was presented. And actually the government in Iceland has been acting really strangely because they have been hiding information. They weren't actually going to let the members of parliament see the contract that we were supposed to be signing on a huge bailout for. But it was leaked, thank God to the people that have been leaking information for us. So we managed to make some really important changes to the contract, and the main change was perhaps that that we would never pay more interest than a certain amount of our GDP. So let's say that we were back in financial crunch, we would not pay more than we could handle. And this could actually set an example for other nations that are dealing with just paying interest of foreign loans. And I think that's why they totally refused to take that into the new contract. However, personally, I don't believe that we should pay anything because it has not been concluded if it is legal, if we should legally be responsible for this according to the EU regulations.
Absolutely. There's no legal basis for it. I agree with you. There should not be any payments made. And I agree with you that the IMF is really a force of colonialization more than anything else. They've made countries bankrupt rather than help countries improve their economies. Now, the referendum is expected to be voted on February 20th. How do you expect the vote to go?
I think, well, that's why I'm calling on the people of the world to support us, the people of Iceland, to vote out of courage but not fear, because the government is really, it's like they're acting for the British and the Dutch. And I don't know what's behind it. I mean, maybe they have information that the rest of us don't have. But I have been through all the so-called secret files and the secret map that the parliamentarians were giving access to one by one. And there is nothing in it that could indicate a doomsday if we just stand on our feet and say no. So I think that maybe, I firmly believe that the nation will vote out of courage, especially like the way the things are going now. All these people are stepping forward, economists, politicians, ordinary people standing up for us, the nation.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. The population, might they waver really under the verbal threats of London and Amsterdam? Plus, remember the media propaganda. We've heard guys, for example, Jeremy Paxman in London, really put out the corporate line, the banking line, an apologist for the bankers in the City of London. And he's got a huge soapbox over there at his newscast. And is this going to have any effect on the local population, or will they see through the propaganda of people like Jeremy Paxman and vote in their own interests?
I don't think so, because there was a backlash. The government, the day the president decided to stand with his nation, not the bankers, it looked like they had won the propaganda war, the government, because immediately you got all the main media basically saying Icelanders are not going to pay, they're just like the pirates in the North Atlantic and so forth. However, this is not entirely true, because if we refuse the new contract, the other contract is still standing. So this is a complete lies. What happened then, like maybe 2 days later, everything turned around, and now there is much more, like, in the British media, 90% of people voting, if Icelanders should pay, say no.
All right, well, this is a real Tea Party moment, as it's known around the world. Now, when the government that presided over the financial bubble and collapse was swept from power, what did the new government, led by Joanna Sigurdarson, I believe, I'm mispronouncing that, promise would be done? Was she expected to give away your economic sovereignty, as was done in this bill?
No, and it's become like a huge shock to us that have been waiting for a left-wing government for a long time. However, you have to bear in mind, I think it is sort of, left and right is completely redundant at times like this, and we should rather focus on the job ahead instead of focusing on left and right policies. You cannot run a left welfare system policy with the IMF ruling the country. It is just a fairy tale, and they can't do it no matter how much they want to.
All right. Well, I support the effort in Iceland to insurrect against the occupying banking forces in that country. I only wish Americans had the same spine to do so in their own country, but maybe they'll be inspired by your country.
You know, if we can do it, you surely can. And I hope that it will be an inspiration for other people to stand up against this.
Well, certainly in the City of London and in Britain, you know, Britain is about to impose draconian spending cuts. So I think Britain, as The Economist magazine was trying to figure out what is the next country to revolt after Iceland, and Britain came up on very high up on that score. So I think Britain could be next to stage a revolt against the banking occupying forces, which we can only hope, if there's any hope of any of us surviving this onslaught of occupation. Any final thoughts, Brigitte?
Final thoughts are just, you know, I think it is really time for us, the people of the world, to revolt in any which way we can against the bankers and the economical elite in our world. And we can only do that by informing ourselves and to not let the fear take control, because if there's enough people to do work together, we can do miracles. I mean, we had 8 weeks this moment before election, no money, and we got 7% of the vote. I mean, these are the times of change, and this can happen everywhere. All
right, Brigitte, thanks so much for being on the Keiser Report.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report. And I want to thank my other guest, Stacey Herbert, political analyst. If you want to send me an email, please do so at keiserreport@rttv.ru. That's keiserreport@rttv.ru. Until next time, this is Max Keiser saying, bye, y'all!